Hey guys, Todd back with you again. I want to have a little discussion this evening about scaling. Came up last night in one of our group chats, and it turned out a lot of people didn't really understand what the phrase meant or what the word scale means. And in the particular example of Amazon, to scale something simply means to grow your sales of a product, or to grow your sales overall as far as all the offerings that you may have. At the most granular level, when you have one product that you're looking at and you want to scale that product, what we're talking about here is increasing sales, increasing the number of units that you sell, and there are two ways of going about this. One way is to scale vertically, which in the case of Amazon means that if you're successful selling this product in North America, in the United States, you would expand that product's reach to Canada, to Mexico, to Europe eventually, and to other markets as they become available, if you think that particular product has appeal in those markets. So the first approach is to grow your product vertically, which is to find new markets for your product and new people that may be potential purchasers of that product. You can also scale horizontally with products, and what that would mean is that when looking at your overall portfolio of products, you would add to your portfolio. You would add additional SKUs, so that may be different variations on products that you're already selling or entirely new products. One of the reasons that this is really important is because without scaling, you're unlikely to ever meet your personal goals in terms of revenue. If you're selling inexpensive items, scaling can be difficult because in order to grow your market share, that usually involves more advertising, and with lower cost products that have smaller margins, your ad costs may actually eat into your profits to the point where it just makes it very difficult to scale profitably. But with more expensive products, you have more of a margin typically. Percentage-wise, it may be the same, but in terms of dollar value, it's significantly larger. And you can scale those products using PPC. You can scale those products into new marketplaces, and there's a lot of room for growth. Also, you don't want ultra niche products, because if you have a very tiny niche, that also limits your growth. So at some point you've got to move away from the idea that you're supposed to just dig down deep and go into the tiniest niche possible. You've got to get away from that idea, and you've got to move towards more mainstream products and products that have a larger market. So, if you're selling titanium golf tees, and they're selling well, it's hard to imagine that selling to scale. No matter how many ads you run, you're going to reach a point where it just doesn't make sense to run any more ads, and you're just going to sell what you sell. Whereas if you're selling something like blankets or water bottles, you have a much larger market with more conventional items and items that were not so deeply entrenched in a tiny little niche. So keep that in mind. It really should impact you from the get-go in terms of what products you even decide to invest your time and efforts in. I know how compelling it may be when you hear people talking about finding a niche product, and it may seem initially like that's a really good idea until you try to scale that product and grow its sales to a more lucrative level, and you find there's just not enough marketplace out there to support that product at a high rate of sales. So you should be thinking about the ability to scale, how you're going to scale, and who you're going to scale to, who the marketplace is for any given product. This should be one of your initial thoughts when you're involved in your product selection process. You'll be a lot happier 3 months or 6 months down the road after you launch your product if you continue to see growth in that product sales versus one that kind of hits a wall that is pretty much insurmountable. So keep that in mind. Always think about scaling, from the very first time you're thinking about a product until you've just exhausted every avenue for that product's growth. Scaling and the concept of scaling is vitally important to any type of commerce, and it can make the difference between you being a successful, happy, and wealthy e-commerce seller versus one that just has a series of products that sort of hit a wall and just never get any better. So if you haven't done so already, how about hitting like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.